So I really believe in the sources. And what we're going to do today, which was Judy's suggestion, is to examine really one of the primary sources in Chazal dealing with our subject of technology, pressures, perils, and pleasures. I may have reversed the order this time. And the goal really is to create a bridge between the original sources, as kind of anchoring and inspiring as they are. And I'm gonna, with Judy's permission, kind of challenge y'all. My job will be today to present what does the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave have to do with iPhones and Bitcoin, but once I hopefully convince you what Rabbi Shimon's message was, I really believe this is pshat. It's not a drash. That's the kind of homiletic kind of pinning on. It's here. And the question really, as we finish today and finish the 4-part series, is what are... No, sorry. Remember that I was saying, take good care of her. She's family. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's what that was. And the question is going to be really, what can we take from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's message into our own relationship, interaction, and use of various forms of technology? As I said, the credit is due here to Judy for suggesting this source. I don't remember if we ever talked about it, but really, it's a wonderful, illuminating source. And the daf that you have, the source sheet that you have, I have something to credit, maybe somewhat of a gray area. You can stop recording here. I have, as I work for Steinsaltz and Koren, I have access to the PDFs of the Koren Talmud Bavli, where the text is free to everyone on Sefaria, but the layout, I'm not exactly clear on that. So this is from the Koren Talmud Bavli. If you ever wanted to know why you should maybe buy those colorful, expensive volumes and not just get it free on Sefaria, well, you see how beautifully it's done here. So at least I put a plug in for it, and hopefully, and I think they'll cover it. So we're going to relearn. We're going to examine the story that you all know about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai running away from the Romans into the cave, 12 years, coming out, burning the farmers and the plowers, if you remember our story about the plow 3 weeks ago, and then going back into the cave for 1 more year, only to emerge making whatever tikkunim he wanted to make. We're going to examine this story kind of with our new eyeglasses, looking at the issue of technology, innovation, and how our Chachamim dealt with it in the past and what they are advising and guiding us in the future. You may notice here the daf that you want is 157 and it's back to back. And this is daf Lamed Gimel Amud Bet 33b in Masechet Shabbos. It is worthy to note that 33 lag corresponds to lag ba'omer. So if you ever remember, like what daf is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai about? Like it's like the narrative of Rashbi is on lag b'Masechet Shabbos. But if that's not enough, my good friend and incredible Bucky, Rabbi Eitan Feiner of the White Shul, he pointed out that this also happens to be the page where it is the 33rd mention of Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the Babylonian Talmud. So it falls out on page 33, the 33rd reference to Rashbi is kind of the headquarters of the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai story. And what we're going to do is this. I think what we're going to do is going to read the whole story. I'm going to read it in the original Aramaic. I guess I'll read along, or I'll do my own translation, probably just kind of simultaneous, spontaneous translation. Feel free to follow in the very professionally done. I had something maybe to do with this, not with this page, but I used to work on this. And the English translation of the Talmud, you can follow along. What we're going to do, though, is focus primarily on certain segments of the story. The story itself is really a wellspring, a wealth, a treasure of so many different things that could be examined here. So I'm going to kind of expand and emphasize as I read it through, and perhaps asking some questions, and then we're going to come back and kind of open it up and see what we're being taught here. Okay, so so let's go. The Gemara begins talking about one of the great Tanoim, Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, also our neighbor, not just Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why was he known as Rosh HaMedabrim B'chol Makom, the head of the speakers in every place? So the Gemara asks, why was he called the head of speaker? And the reason is because of the following story. Diyatmi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, these three Chachamim, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, sat together. V'yatev Yehuda ben Gerim Gabai. There was a fellow called Yehuda, son of the converts, who sat with them. Notice he wasn't called rabbi. And we're not so clear of his moral standing at the moment. Patach Rabbi Yehuda v'Amar. Rabbi Yehuda initiated. No one asked them. No one interviewed them. Rabbi Yehuda, by the way, if it's okay to say, your brother definitely has a lot to do with this class. I can't explain it. Patach Rabbi Yehuda v'Amar. Kama na'im ma'aseim shel umazu. How pleasant are the actions of this nation, the Romans. Why? Because as conquerors and governors of the land of Israel in the post-Second Temple period, they tiknu shvakim, they established marketplaces, tiknu gisharim, they established bridges, and tiknu merchatzaot, and established bathhouses. So they really brought their engineering, industrial know-how to the benefit of the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael. So kama na'im. And I will point out here a couple of kind of emphases on the Hebrew wording, the Aramaic wording. His word is kama na'im. What is the word na'im? Is it how it's translated here? Pleasant, right? Na'eh means pleasant, or maybe even more exact would be perhaps if you said today is na'eh. What would you say? Na'im really is pleasant. What would you say in modern Hebrew? Na'eh. Appropriate, right? Or perhaps beautiful, aesthetic.
Isn't it spelled wrong? I mean, not wrong.
The Hebrew and English.
The Hebrew is supposed to be na'im than ayin?
No, it's interesting. It's not connected to na'im, right? You would assume na'im, na'eh. No, it's two different words. Na'im is na'im, pleasant. Na'eh, usually at least the modern Hebrew, has a connotation also of something being nice to look at. It's nice, but in the aesthetic sense. And I also just want to point out the word that the Koran here translates as established. Tiknu could also have another meaning. Tiknu could be established, right? The takein takana is to establish some kind of a tree, but it can also mean the takein, fix, right? Right? It's not that they necessarily established, but it also could mean the takein, which is a very important word in general, to fix, repair, heal, and so forth. So these are the three things they did. That was how Rabbi Yehuda initiated. Rabbi Yosei, the second sage, Shatak, remained silent. Nana Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai responded, Kol v'amar, and said, Kol ma shetiknu lo tiknu el tzorach atzmon. Everything they established, everything they fixed, they only did it for their own benefit. L'tzorach atzmon, for their own purposes. Why? Tiknu shvakim. Why did they establish marketplaces? Loshiv behem zonot, to how does it say? To place prostitutes in them. Ksharim, merchatzaot, bathhouses, la'adein behen atzmam, to pamper themselves. Gisharim, litol mehen meches, to collect taxes, surcharges, the road, what's it called, the toll road, from the people who pass over it. That was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's response. Halach Yehuda ben Gerim, this Yehuda, son of the converts, went in Siper Divreihem, spread and related the exchange. Nishmu Malchut, and these words were heard by the king's court. Amru Yehuda Sheila, Rabbi Yehuda that praised the Romans, that kind of raised them up literally. he shall yit'ale. He will get the title of the head speaker in every place as we began. Yossi sheshotak, Rabbi Yossi that remains silent. So nishtahi nishtaher, yigaleh tzipori. You're not going to be severely punished, but he's not going to be rewarded. He'll have to exile to Tzipori. And Shimon Shegina, Rabbi Shimon who denounced the Romans, Yehareg, shall be killed. And I think as I'm reading through it, I would like, instead of kind of reading the whole story, it'll take a long time. Let's kind of open it up right here. What is this discussion about? I will just add, before I open this up to you, I will just add a couple of thoughts. One is when we talk about bathhouses and marketplaces and what's the third one? Bridges. So we have to remember, now we call that archaeology. You can visit on a field trip to Caesarea, but in those days, that was cutting edge industrial engineering technology, right? We always we learned about the plow. Right now we know the plow is like, it's John Deere. It's old, that's low tech. This was wow. This is like indoor plumbing. That's high tech, right? Depends when you live. So what we're talking about here is a dialogue between these three chachamim about technology. Each generation, you can't expect the Gemara to talk about iPhones, but you can, if you understand the context, make that sound. So having said that, let's do a little exercise and try to understand, like if they were sitting here today, the three rabbis, we have Rav Ariel Gornstein, we have Rav David Cohen, and we have Rav Simcha Mirvis, all talking about tech. And what are these three kinds of technologies? Shvakim, they were metakein marketplace. What's like today, like the cutting edge, a high-tech form of, Machane Yehuda or the Shuk in Tzfat. Oh wow, that's so high-tech. Thank you, Shuki. Like what's the tiknu shvakim? eBay, Amazon, right? eBay, Amazon. How do people buy things? Etsy, right? Amazing, right? Tiknu merchatzaot. I don't get AliExpress. Merchatzaot, bathhouses. What would that be? Spas.
So people did not have indoor plumbing.
They have indoor plumbing, right?
So people did not probably take baths very often.
They did not.
That's probably a great luxury to be able to take a bath.
Right. So I wonder what industry is this? Maybe cosmetics. Maybe could it be like what?
Facial.
Right. I'm going to like. Right. What would you say? Howard Spring Trade. I'm trying to think about how could this be like kind of bumped up into 21st century technology. Could be electricity, could be aesthetic medicine, could be health in general, plastic surgery. Just met Dr. Miami. Just came. You know who that is? Just came to visit in my Macabbi. Don't worry about it. Yeah, he's like the #1 celebrity plastic surgeon. From guy, Ben Torah, unbelievable. But don't look him up. No, I didn't. Whatever. Right. Wow. Wow. Right there. They want to look like their profile pictures.
Right.
Just by the way, I give you my parenthetical inserts here. An anthropologist did research in Papua New Guinea, where it's like it was in the before the Romans, and he experimented what would happen. This is what us would do really, but what would happen if the indigenous peoples there would see a photographic image of themselves. These people have never seen themselves, at least in a realistic, and he describes
They have no mirror.
nothing comparable to what we have. It would be like polished metal or like a spoon or something like that, or water maybe. But it's not the same. And it really says a lot about what we learn about selfie society. And the one of the striking things was that after he would do it with a Polaroid, there was like the shock to they realized, and then they would walk around with the Polaroid. Remember how those the pictures in there, feather, whatever, headband, they would have, that's how they would walk around, with the symbol of themselves, ad kidei kach, that they would try to, that their real body, spaces, posture, poses would somehow kind of mimic the pose that was captured in the frame there. In other words, something very basic about humans, that now you have young women who are trying to alter their physical bodies to match their TikTok filtered, adjusted images. Anyway, I could hear, I think it could be all of those things. Let's ask about gisharim. What would be the bridges today? What? Jet.
Electric cars.
Social, right? Bridging, right? It's a form of communication also. The gisharim is connecting people. Right? And if you want to, what? Electric cars, and tomorrow it's going to be driverless cars, and go anywhere, anytime, or don't go anywhere, anytime. Just have your car bring it to you. But that whole range, I guess, both of information and communication, rather, and transportation. Now, let's look at let's try to imagine what was Rabbi Yehuda praising. What did Rabbi Yehuda like about Yehuda Tzadik Yisodon, right? That's not a question. What Patach ve'Omar, and we have to assume he was not trying to find favor with the Romans. It wasn't a political, kind of, what's it called, kissing up to them. They were private conversations. Patach ve'Omar, Kama Naim Masayim. What struck him? Maybe he's had a great bath. Wow, that was refreshing. That was professional. Could be.
One could say that a person who is physically comfortable and has certain conveniences, it might enhance their learning. It might enhance their ability to function in the world. So in their world, it's learning.
In their world, it would be learning. These are the chachamim of the Mishnah. Interesting. Just for example, what would that look like? Let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't know, but let's just say he was saying, like Rabbi, okay, look what all this technology did. This brought Gilui Hashem ba'olam, revealed God into the world. So look at these three again. You have first the shuk. How does the shuk, this new advanced eBay, Amazon, how does that help our avodas Hashem?
You don't have to make
everything is in, go online, press the button, you order it, pay for it, and it gets shipped. So the time that you're saving instead of
Saving time, right? Bittul Torah, you have to go to the mall, try on the shoe, go back, right? That's one thing. Really saving time. Maybe there's other factors for avodas Hashem in the high-tech marketplace. What else could you say?
Well, it's an easier way for people to make money and still sit and learn Torah.
Right. Look at the other side. Right. Look at the supply side. You could sit at home. All the some people in Lakewood are like these Amazon resellers, drop shipping things, and you don't have to go out in the 9 to 5, break your back, get more koach for learning Torah. It's easier. They invented the mall basically, air conditioned. It's much easier to make a living.
well, I don't really support buying on Amazon in general.
I hear you.
I just sell my calendar on Amazon. So I consider it spreading the media better to go all over.
Right. So beautiful. So you're saying, so for avodas Hashem, in other words, if you have better channels of distribution, more kind of efficient channels, so you could think how many tefillin you could sell.
And if you make more money, then you have more money.
Right, which is a very important way to use your money suffering, is to support the Bas Medrash. Now, Okay. This is low tech. She also takes PayPal, PayPal. By the way, okay, thank you for the joke. I was once sitting in the office. You have your neighbor here. What do they call it? Like the Chabad has this like economic, family education program. What's it called over here? So I saw once in the office they had a cartoon, just like a typical American family sitting on the couch, and each kid was with their device. And the little girl said iPod, and the boy was with iPhone, and the mom was with iPad, and the father was with iPaid. So anyway, right, just Shvakim market is about a distribution. It's about better economics, easier living. What about help us in Avodas Hashem? We're trying to get into Rabbi Yehuda's shoe. We're making a case of tiknu gisharim, transportation. We'll say, just for argument's sake, is so much easier now.
It's all about time saving.
Time saving, making it easier, less danger. You could bring people. Talk about Zoom, right? You don't have to come even. This is a great bridge, right? You don't even have to come. I could come from Steylan easily. Thought it would take me less time, but I could come. You could spread Torah, bring Torah. You don't have to. In the old days, you were stuck with your local talents, and now you can, cross bridges. The time you can go to different schools, yeshivas. How many people can have come to Shimon Bar Yochai? The easier, better roads. The train now comes to Carmiel. It should make it much easier, and so forth. What about merchatzaot? You started talking about that a little bit. How would that, the world of, we'll call it aesthetic medicine, cosmetic, feel, just I guess kind of good hygiene in general. You live longer and healthier, right? Take a bath. In the 19th century, by the way, they were convinced that bathing was bad for you. It was considered kind of weird. They were really convinced, which interesting. So for much of the medieval period, people thought that bathing was a bad habit. So it was not hygienic.
They thought smelling good was good.
It invented the perfume industry. So so how would that have just living longer, healthy, comfortable? You could sit over that Daf Gemara, without the lice taking over your body or something like that. Ladein behem atzma. Okay, fine. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. Now, what is Rabbi Shimon's response? We're learning a Gemara. When you're learning Gemara, you gotta pay attention to the machlokes. It's always about the machlokes. What is we say in the base Medrash? Nekudas hamachlokes. What is the pivotal point that they're arguing about? Now, did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai not realize that people are buying and selling much easier? They're getting places faster, and they're living a lot more comfortable life. They're not arguing about the facts, right? What did Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai respond to? The intent. All he answered, Koma she'asu, asu l'tzorchei atzmam. They did it for their own purposes, for their own benefit, right? Let's apply that, like we talked about. If you're not paying for it, then you're not the customer. You're the product. Right? We said that last week, right? If you're not paying for Facebook and Gmail, then you are the product. So that's what he's saying. He's saying that hello, he was kama na'im. I'm quoting you, Rabbi. Kama na'im maseim shalumazu. How pleasant are the actions of these Romans? I think that he's not. Is he praising just the actual innovations, or is he also praising the people? It's not so clear from his statement. Probably you would tell me he's praising the innovations. That's what I would have said. So then why does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai come and say everything they do is did for himself? If I'd be Rabbi Yehuda, what would you answer?
Well, we benefit too.
Right. Well, what do I care? Meaning, what's the argument? We're not arguing about that. The discussion was, is it a good thing to have a bathhouse in a regional marketplace? So clearly it seems one can deduce that we can infer that somehow in Rabbi Yehuda's approach, there was also somehow attributing kind of benevolent, altruistic motives to the Romans. There was kind of this certain fixation on their culture, on their role in society in Eretz Yisrael.
if they're doing it only for themselves, or primarily for themselves, then anytime it's not convenient for them to do it for their own purposes, then you lose. Because it's not altruistic and subjective to involve the maker or seller of the item, then you can't rely on its continuity or the goodness. And if they should help collapse every so often, so, okay, that's what they'll do, and so if you want to collapse.
They will maximize their profits. That is, it's called the business model. In other words, that's why it's so hard for Facebook to not intrude on people's privacy, is because they're a company, a for-profit company. They're not an amuta, they're not a NGO, they're not a 501c3. They are for-profit. They have shareholders, and their job is to maximize profit. Now, the way they make money, not by having more subscribers, or at least not directly. You don't pay membership, like an old-fashioned. Oh, you have more members, you have more customers, more money. It doesn't work that way. Right? It's a free newspaper, right? The idea they're giving out Yerushalayim. Oh, they're so nice. The guy over there by the Gesher, he's giving out Yerushalayim. Oh, they're so sweet of it. No, it's about advertising. It's about advertising. They're giving you something so they could sell you or your attention to whoever is advertising. So absolutely. So you're really saying is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's. Or I'm actually just hearing a deeper layer. You're not just saying, you're not just saying that they are not. So I think this is very, very insightful, if I understood you correctly. She's not just saying they're not such big tzaddikim. They're saying that if their motivations are selfish, then the product is also going to be flawed one way or another. It just doesn't make sense. As long as your interests go together, kind of get a quick fix. You could look at so many industries like that. I think I may have mentioned reading a book about the processed food industry. I really recommend this book for your non-Torah time called The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. You read that? Wow, what an eye-opening book. The Omnivore's Dilemma. And just the idea that if it's once it's about business and about money, you shouldn't be so sure what you're eating anymore. Because they don't really care.
Right, they don't care.
They don't, in other words, it's me'ah yesod. It's from the foundation. Right? In other words, there's this overlap, which, what's your name? Pardon me. Oh, wow, nice to meet you finally. About food. Wow. Right, so once, do this, you can go together only a certain amount of time, but there's going to be points where it diverges, or it even could be scarier, where you think you're still going with your interests, but really, you're going in different directions. What I think you're reading into is what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is really his critique. And because time is short, I'm gonna fast forward 12 or 13 years. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. As you know, it's so classic. It's almost kind of a caricature of itself. So if you don't want to live with Roman technology, so where do you go? Where do you end up?
In the cave.
In a cave, right? In other words, that's what we call people. Like Luddites are. Luddites were people at the beginning of the 19th century who opposed the Industrial Revolution in England, and they would sabotage all the industrial, like the automatic milling. And because they were taking away jobs from the workers, and so even now they have what they call neo-Luddites, new Luddites who are just, it's kind of like neo-Amish, like
Neo-Amish.
It's like I can tell you, I visited the Amish in Tennessee last year. My search for technology and what can we have in common and not in common with them. I wanted to ask them about Noah and the plow, but they don't want to talk to me.
Oh,
They don't talk. No, I came on their Sabbath Sunday, and I can't tell you. It was a cute exchange, but it didn't work like I thought it would. I guess not. It's Nishabas Guret. He said to me, Nishabas Guret. Anyway, we look at because we look alike. It's like like a little weird. Who are you? So.
But you had a pet in your pocket, so that was.
I didn't have a pen. I had this. And I came on Sunday, so it's anyway. So, but you go to a proverbial or real cave. In other words, you just say this is out of hand, and to one degree or another, you're just saying, I am signing off and logging out, and I just don't want to have any part of this. And that was really the existence in the cave. Back to the most basic. Right. Again, I'm saying this is Midrash, right? In other words, up to now was Pshat, the simple reading of this text. You're right. The reason he went to the cave because they were chasing. That is true. But we even in our Western society have the default. Right. In other words, it's like saying, that joke about who was it? There was someone really who spoke out against big tech and wrote. I think it was it Elon Musk who wrote about it? Mom, if I don't, if I disappear in unusual circumstances, goodbye, mom, or something like that. After having spoken out against Twitter, I don't know what. They want to get the person. This is really big. I mean, big tech is bigger than big government. It really, really is. So, it could be scary. Obviously, I'm not going into any conspiracy theories or anything like that. I really am not. I don't believe in that at all. But we're with you. It's good. Good, Bill. No problem, Bill. We're with you. Bill, yeah. Bill, good. We love Bill.
It's right here.
Right. So, I learn with people who I don't have all this. I have Baruch Hashem very, very filtered. But people experience that they're having a conversation and then they see Facebook ads, what they just talked about. Oh yeah,
It's Big Brother again.
It is what they talk.
There's a documentary made by the computer geeks who started Facebook and all these.
Right. Social dilemma. So that I also want to recommend that too. I saw that. So take it from Aura that you'll send the link. I sent you a link, correct? You look for it. I sent a link from Dropbox if you don't have this. Backlight, responses. Yeah, Facebook really was able to recruit everything they said. I'm joking. Okay. There's always different perspectives. Okay. No, let's go. Yeah, go.
Okay, basically here we talked about 4 respondents. Rabbi Huda elevated with low regime, Yosef in silence, Shimon denounced that were very consequences. That sounds very familiar. That sounds like a connection to, let's see, EO. I don't remember.
Nice, very nice. The 3 yotzim of Paro. We said, how about Malo? That's what are we gonna do with these Jews? So we had 3 yotzim. Right. Bilam was the far left, I guess, the far bad. Yisro was good, and Eov was just the middle guy. He didn't say anything. Look what's right. So this is also another lesson. I'm not so into this. Just personal tendencies. I'm not into the social action. Let's speak out against all this stuff. But one can make a case. If you're silent. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. There was so often we see kind of a background, almost like a subconscious influence that would speak here, and especially because you're talking about a similar situation. In a sense, you have the tyrants. You have the Paro, who is Gozer Gzera, and you have the 3 responses. Even though it's not exactly the same, but it could definitely be an inspiration. What I want to surprise you in a second. I have a punchline here. I do want to point out, though, that there's another Gemara, and I'll use this as a reference that you can go and look it up. I don't know how many people notice this. There's a Gemara in Maseches Arlozoroff that Beis in the base. The Gemara there, the context is the end of days, the great judgment day, which will be not just for the Jewish people, but for all the nations and the superpowers of the world. And believe it or not, the Romans are going to be the first to enter judgment. And
when the Germans get in there, that's what I want to know. When the Germans get in there.
The Germans. It's probably the same thing. This is an amazing Gemara. Well, it was really the four powers. There are the four classic Goliot. Egypt is kind of like the paradigm for all the four, which were not in chronological order, was Babylon, Bavel, Paras, Persian, Yavan, Greek, and Rome, Edom, Esav, Germany. So the Gemara says an unbelievable thing, and if you don't like make the connection, you won't even notice it. They come to Mishpat, they come to judgment before Hashem, and they I'm gonna quote it, okay? If you don't.
What's the
Bays, I'm with Bays. 2b. I'm gonna quote it. I know we have a lot to do in little time. That's why I knew it wouldn't even go on the source sheet, but I think it just because of what you said, I just want to make sure. Oh, look at that. What a miracle. Like came right up. Hey, 1 second. They were listening. The Romans. We love the Romans. Okay. All right. The Roman Empire enters before Hashem. Okay. And that's because they're considered like the most important and so forth. And then the Gemara says, God asks them, what did you occupy with yourselves with during your reign or during your time in this world? A very neutral question, right? So what do they say? They say as follows. Omrim lefano, they say before Hashem, Ribono Shalom, God Almighty, Harbe shvakim tukninu, we established many marketplaces. Harbe merchatzaot asin, we established many bathhouses. Harbe kesef v'zahav harbein, kesef. We made a lot of gold and silver, which is connected to, if you remember in the bridge, what's the bridge for? To connect the money. We made a lot of money, right? Okay, they could have stopped there, right? What do they say? V'klum lo asinu. The only thing we ever did, the only reason we ever did anything, B'shvil Yisrael kadesh yisasku b'Torah, so the Jews can learn Torah. Meaning, it seems you were right. It seems that what Rabbi Yehuda, who is praising them, either is paraphrasing what the Romans of his day were saying, or the Romans kind of used Rabbi Yehuda to, what are we going to say to the boss? Oh yeah, now the guy can get to Koilel in no time, and Zuber and Corona, how would you have Torah? All that. And B'fil Yisrael. But what is fascinating here is that it's understood, they understand that it wouldn't have been enough to say, we made a lot of great technology. We made tremendous innovations, tremendous leaps of abilities. They knew that they had to, like the philosophical was teleology, there had to be some tachlis. For what was it for? What were you trying to accomplish? Technology is just an means. What were your ends? And we see that the Romans knew they had to kind of make a case. They knew that Hashem wasn't going to accept less unless you could connect it to that which is ultimately valuable, ultimately absolute. In this case, B'shvil Yisrael sheyasku b'Torah. They knew in the light of the Messianic era. This is what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, everyone's going to realize the only thing that really was important, Yisrael sheyasku b'Torah, and how you line up as being a part of that picture, that's your share in the world to come. Okay, stay tuned. What does the Gemara say? Hashem says to the Romans, Shaitim Sheboyim, fools of the world. Kol ma'asha asite, litzorech atzmechem asite. Whatever you did for yourself. Tikantim shvaki, loshir ben zonos. You establish marketplaces to place prostitutes in them. Apropos, we didn't mention that, but apropos, etc. Merchatzaot ladein behen atzmechem. You did it for your own enjoyment. And gold and silver, you think you made? I'm the boss. Liya kesef, liya zav, Hashem. I make the money. So what do you see? So what's the big? So this is what I want to say is the meaning of this word tiknu, established, may not be the right translation. Tiknu as in fixed or advanced or enhanced. How do you say, what's the word? Made it more efficient, right? It's so much easier to have access to all of that.
Suki said that Tikkun is connected with
Yes, Yofi. There may actually be a connection. There may actually, it wouldn't be beyond the shadow. I'm just trying to remember, because someone help me who has a biblical mind. Is the word tikkun a biblical word or a rabbinic Hebrew word? Tikkun, is it in Chumash? Do you have tikkun taf kuf nun? Tikkun. I have to remember. It doesn't come to me offhand, but I don't know. I'll check it out with you know who. Okay. So let's just understand for a moment what the Gemara said. The Gemara really is saying that if you don't have a kind of an enlightened purpose behind your innovation, you're not going to make it into the next one. That's basically what happens. They're rejecting. They're rejecting.
What can you say that?
About
Not having a filter.
Oh, very nice. Very interesting. Very interesting. The idea of whoever doesn't have a phone that's properly muzzled should, quoting Rav Vosner, "Ein lo chelek l'olam haba." So interesting parallel. The Romans don't get a share. The world to come really is about ultimate values, absolute values, and whatever share you had in absolute values, you're not liking this. I see.
No, I'm not.
I know, but good.
It should be here.
I agree. No, I understood about the filter, but what about even before that? You didn't like this. You didn't like this Gemara.
I'm okay with it.
Oh, yeah. No, I would have thought, based on your previous comments, it has to really be both, really, for many reasons. But in my opinion, at least, but based on your previous comments in previous classes, I think also you could take objection here to a certain degree, because what we're really saying is that what the Gemara seems to be saying is you can't just say, I just created technology. It's neutral. It's your problem if you did it. But someone put a prostitute there. We didn't do that. That's
Well, I think if you want a prostitute, you want a prostitute.
So that's what the Romans would say. But the Gemara seems, or in the name of God, seems to be rejecting that claim and saying that what is the difference if someone is able to I guess there's a difference. One could say, if you have no intention, do what you want with the guys. Here's Facebook. Have fun, right? As opposed to, I created a platform, Mirosh, Machshavat Chila, with original intent for somewhat nefarious purposes. So certainly that latter one is problematic here, but even perhaps the middle one, it's put it this way. It seems that as long as it's tzorech atzmam, we're talking about industry, which works with business, like for profit. Inherently, it seems to be flawed according to this. There's an inherent flaw. And we were talking about last week from that movie also, Social Dilemma, technology is not neutral. It always has the biases and the motives of people. Because why wouldn't you? If you can hook people to keep them coming back, even though they realize they're being hooked, why wouldn't you? The only reason that they stopped putting those subliminal perception frames of Coca-Cola in the movies in the 60s was because they got caught, right? Meaning if they wouldn't have got caught, why wouldn't you want to boost your concession sales, right?
You're talking about
Remember the old days where they would put like a frame of a picture of an ice cold Coke in the movie, and the person would all of a sudden just really want to drink Coke, but they wouldn't know why. It's one thing to have a persona.
talking about the creator and you're talking about the user. There may be a distinction.
Go ahead.
In other words, the creators of technology, their intentions are negative. Okay, mixed, okay. But the user has choice how he's going to use it. It's very hard.
It's hard for the user,
Sure.
and I guess, and with your permission, I'm gonna just keep on rolling. There's a lot here, and let me ask you a question. How many people here think, after we basically saw the Gemara is paskening in Hashem's name, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. The Romans were adopting here the position of Rabbi Yehuda, and the Gemara has here Hashem saying exactly what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said. You think Rabbi Shimon used a Roman bathhouse? Do you think that he bought his fish Lechavot Shabbos from the marketplace, or did he when he left it for exile, did he cross? There's this funny. I gotta just interrupt myself 1 second. My kids showed me they have this. It's like this Haredi stand-up thing. I don't get this stuff. Trust me, I promise. But one of my sons showed me. It's just like this Hasidic like comedian. He's like making fun of this like Kanoi, the zealot from Mea Shorim. Like, wake up in the morning. Okay, we got to go. We got to make a hafkana. We're make some kind of protest. We're gonna protest. Let's go protest the light rail in Yerushalayim. Let's go, guys. Let's go protest. We're gonna protest. You know what I'm talking about? With Bardak, right. So he's like going. We go protest. We'll protest. I don't. Okay. Then they take they walk. It's like they're gonna be late. So you try to get a cab, but there's too much traffic, and then they have no choice, but they end up getting inside the light rail. We're gonna go protest. So do you think Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai used Roman technology before the? In other words, the question wasn't necessarily using or not using. The question was, at the realm of the user, was how do you avoid look, you had to pay the toll, but where you can. I'm going to the bathhouse Lechavot Shabbos. I'm crossing the bridge for to get to Kola. Those are my reasons, and I take the necessary cautions not to fall into any Roman pitfalls. The proof of this is this. Again, the idea is not about using technology. It's about how do you view it. Being aware of what technology is enables you to not be so enthralled and enchanted, and take the appropriate steps. Now, I want to point out, I'm jumping ahead here. We're going to do this so quick. Watch this. We're not. Watch this. I have to show you, which is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Okay, so fine. There are 12 years in the cave. We know he comes out. He burns people with his eyes. Hashem says, "Go back to the cave." Right. That's that's super high. They're working on that. They're working on that. That's called Krypton technology. So he comes out. So let's read it like here. We're on page 157. The middle of the page. The last part, but as the sun was setting. Right. Yeah, as the sun was setting on Shabbat Eve, they saw an elderly man who was holding 2 bundles of myrtle branches and running at twilight. He's basically holding two bunches of flowers. But like how you equivalent modern is there. It's a bouquet. 2 bouquets of flowers, 2 dozen roses. He's running. Why do you have these? Meaning, what are you doing? It's aesthetics, flowers. He said to them, in honor of Shabbos, Lechavot Shabbos. He said, oh yeah, right. So why do you have 2? Must be a taiva. Or are you really into this aesthetic? So he says, no. One is the Keneged Zachor and one is Keneged Shamor. Right? The 2 mitzvahs of Shabbos and the 10 commandments. Rabbi Shimon said to his son, see how beloved the mitzvot are to Israel. Their minds were put at ease. They were no longer as upset that people were not engaged in Torah study. They were using the aesthetics, Lechavot Shabbos Kodesh. They had this ability. Now watch. At that moment, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai changed. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, Rabbi Shimon's son-in-law, heard and went out to greet him. He brought him into the. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai comes to the bathhouse and began tending to his flesh. He saw that Rabbi Shimon had cracks on the skin of his body because of the cave. He was crying and so forth. And he fixes him in the bathhouse from the cracks in his skin. Now, I'm just jumping a little bit. So you see he was in the bathhouse. I'm going to jump to show you Shimon Bar Yochai. In the end, he comes to Tiberius and asks how he can help them. And he says that we have a problem with the marketplace. The priests, the Kohanim can't go into the shuk. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai helps them out with that. And he actually later has a run-in with some prostitutes, and they also and that represents the Gesharim. You see Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when he comes out, he engages in all. Again, he engages in a positive way with the women of ill repute. But all 3 things that he denounced in the beginning, you see him engaging or re-engaging in them in a positive way at the end of the story. Now, what's the upshot of this? What happened? Why did he change? Or maybe he realized he can't live in the cave, right? I remember once in the very early days of cell phones, I didn't want to have a cell phone. Nothing to do with the phone case. I didn't want to have it until the gate of my moshav became, the only way you could open it at night was you had to call a number. Like I was like locked out. You just can't, how long can you live like this? You can't, right? So it could be just, hechrach. How long can you stay in the cave? But I think there's something much deeper. Let's look at this here. Please, if you just give me a couple more minutes, I think you'll see things here. Super illuminating. I'm in the second paragraph of 158. Omar, after he was saved, after his skin was repaired by the bathhouse, Shimon said, since a miracle transpired for me, I will go and repair something. I'm going to read you the Hebrew. Hold bisrachish nisa. A miracle happened. I was saved. Aizil, I will go. Atkin miltan. Tikkun. I will now make a tikkun. Right? So look at this juxtaposition. The Romans have made tikkuns, and now Rabbi Shimon's about to make a tikkun. How does? Let's see. Maybe he's gonna make some meditation. Or being saved by the Romans, probably being saved from the Roman decree. And so now it's just beautiful. So Hashem helps you, that you pay it forward. Now he's going to try to help the world. How does he do this? So let's see how does he know? What is his inspiration? Geval. Dichtiv. He's going to learn from Yaakov. We're going to talk about Yaakov tech. It's Yaakov tech versus Roman tech. Shimon Bar Yochai says, I remember when Yaakov Avinu was saved from Lavan and from Esau, and the angel finally makes it back. He's comparing himself to Yaakov Avinu, he makes it back there to Israel. I also comes back, he comes to Shechem, doesn't know what's about to happen, but he thinks Shechem is going to be a nice place to live, good neighborhood. And what does he do? The pasuk says, Vayavo Yaakov Shalom. Yaakov comes, I'm translating it from the side here, and Yaakov came whole. Shalom to the city, and the rest of the pasuk is Vayichan is Pnei, and he graced the city. Vayichan, he graced. It's something of chaim to the city. So first of all, what does it mean Yaakov came whole? Three opinions: Shalom begufo, Shalom b'mamono, Shalom b'toirasa. Vayichan is Pnei. What does it mean that he graced the city? Isn't this interesting? Matbeya tikemeh. He established a currency for that. Shmuel Amar, Shvakim Tikein Lahem. He established marketplace. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, Merchat Za'ot Tikein Lahem. Bathhouses he established. Just stop right there for 1 second. Yaakov Avinu, according to Shimon Bar Yochai, in the words of the Gemara, is kind of drawing inspiration from Yaakov, who one of three, that's all of three, when he was saved, he either established a currency, which we know to equate with, which are the three? Bridges, Sharon, Merchatzos, bathhouses, Shvakim, marketplaces. The same three things. Now, look at so I know I got to do one of those, I have to do that. He is now being the Metake. He comes into the city, and he says, is there anything here that needs repair? Can I be attacking something for you? And they say, yeah, well, we have a problem. There's a place where there's uncertainty with regard to ritual impurity, right? The priest can't go into the marketplace of Tiberia because there's a suffix tumo, which is also, there's a michshol, there's something impure in the marketplace, right? Technically, it means there was maybe a dead body there. The Kohanim can't become impure, but the Kohanim symbolize, of course, the righteous, the holy people can't go into the marketplace because it's decrepit, or it's whatever. It's not a, it's whatever, not a place for a ben Torah. So Shimon Bar Yochai, the rest of the story is how he enables the Kohanim to go into, he creates the first internet filter to be able to shop on Amazon, the low kashash. So that's what Rabbi Shimon does. But I want to end with you with the insight of the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai says, what is the difference? Ma nishtana, between the three innovations that Yaakov and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai are adopting, and the Romans, which we heard Hashem himself and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai denounced him. So he says the key is in the verse, the beginning of the verse. Why does the Gemara have to say? You know, Gemara never reads anything extraneous. It says the Gemara brings a whole pasuk. Yaakov came whole. What's whole? Either gufo, teraso, mimono. Vayichad pnei ha'ir. What does it mean? Vayichad, one of three things: the bridges, the mechatos, or the marketplace. So, what do you need this drasha about Yaakov Shalem? What do you need that he was Shalem to tell me about what he innovated, what he established? It's not relevant here that he was Shalem, or is it? The whole problem with the Romans, they only did it for their own sake, and therefore inherent is it's a black hole. It's some kind of vacuum which is using you. It's trying to get something from you, and therefore inherent in whatever you're doing, watch out, because there's some ulterior motives on one level or another of what's going on. Yaakov, says the Ben Ish Chaim, was sholem, no problem. You're worried about the how does it say? He was sholem be. What's the first one? I'm sorry. Sholem be gufo. Right. If he did a merchatzos, he was good with his body already. He was healed. He was fine. You know, he was only doing it for the Chavod Shabbos Kodesh, for a mikvah. I don't know. He didn't have these bodily needs of feeling inadequate how he looks in the mirror, and that he needed to have plastic surgery. He was shalem b'gufo. He didn't have any needs here of ladein b'hem atzmam. The Romans had this need to pamper themselves. He was shalem. He was satisfied. He was whole. Shalem b'torasa. So you can't say that's why he established. What's the next one? I guess the marketplace. Right, the marketplace.
He was whole in his body, his money.
He was whole in his money. So he was whole in his money. So if he established a marketplace, it was for the Shechemites. They should have, that it should be convenient. He wasn't trying to just be greedy and think about how I can manipulate and mine the local inhabitants that I've come to with my superior understanding and knowledge. He was shalom. He was fine. He was satisfied with what he had. And Shalem b'Taraso, he explains interestingly enough to mean that it goes on the ksharim meches. So he's like, his kids were in koilel. They weren't even, they were set up already from the father-in-law. They didn't have to work to make a buck at the toll booths. I will conclude with 1.5 thoughts. I'll start with the half. The half is, again, an insight that Ben Ish Chai brings from the Noda B'Yehuda. What do you mean about Beit? Some of you asked. What do you mean they established the word coin? We have ancient coins from before that. No one had a coin. There's a really interesting Medrash from the Noda B'Yehuda. They had coins, but you know what? The coins were square. TK Lahem, he was the one who innovated round.
Wow.
What's the point? What's the big deal? He wanted them to remember Zuzim Zazim. The money just rolls on. Don't try to hold on to the money. It never really stays with you anyway. It was like a musar. It was a musar shape. That's the half. But the final thing is, you should know that there are people who are thinking about this. How can technology, where I'm not saying a person should, everyone, you have to make a living, right? No one is let me just innovate. But there are people like a friend of mine called Michael Eisenberg, who invests in Israeli startup. He believes, you can look up his books. He has Torah books, Torah and technology books. He says that Israeli startups almost are fundamentally different. That's what he invests in Israeli startups, as having this kind of tikkun part. It's not just part of their like sales giving. Oh, we donate 10% to koala bears. It's not about that. It's built into the product or to the solution, a real societal problem, and there are some things that will also make money. So are we there yet? Mamash not. But there is this. If we're looking for a geula, we started with about the plowshare, Noah's plowshare versus Tubal Cain's sword. Maybe now we put a little finger on it. Like what we're really looking for is technology which is more benefiting people for the purpose of people and not selfish. We'll close officially with the last question or comment, and then if you want to stay and discuss, I'm happy to remain.
The intent shapes
The intent.
Sof Maseh,
Sof you have to have good intent. Right.
You know, one of the great causes of advance in technology was the development of Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program. And everybody made fun of it, you know, but there were many people who were in favor of it because the result of all this government-funded technology research was a huge surge in practical benefits to people. I don't know if this is true, maybe microwaves came from that,
Right.
I'm not even sure. And who can live without that?
I
Okay,
can.
never mind. Never mind. But I guess, you know, I guess the point is, it's not always that, you know, I mean, there's lots of unexpected benefits to things that, you know, we don't really know what the result
Right.
is.
So much of, you know, it really just, it goes back to that ping pong. If you remember that guy, what's his name? Franz or Hans, with the nitrates, with the fertilizer. You know, oh, it's so great, you know, because of World War II, the Japanese had all the silk, so we had to make parachutes. We invented nylon. DuPont invents nylon. Wow, and that has so many great consumer uses. We can now have, like, you know, the plastic bag. Well, that's so convenient. That was wonderful. That's great. Then, like, you know, 30 years later, you're like, oh my God, plastic bags are destroying the environment. You know, what are we doing? Like, you know, what's it depends, you know, both in the person and also like generation to generation. What was last generation's, you know, wow, this is a great tikkun. You know, it's like, oh yeah, what were you thinking? You know, so it ends up with Hashem at the end of the day. You know, really, without Hashem's intervention.
If I can just make another comment.
Please.
Well, maybe other people want to. Anyway,
I do.
I can do it. Oh, no, I forgot. Never mind. But, I'll come back to it.
Well, I wanted to ask, where does it say the third name said that the internet is the Satan?
Oh, you asked me. I can Google that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I know.
I don't know. I didn't say that. I don't know.
Right.
If I would be the Satan though, that's where I would.
Right.
Put it that way. What? You go to the mainstream media. If you would be the Satan, you know where I would go? You know where it really goes, guys?
Yeah.
You know where it really goes? Shul. Shul. Shul.
Right.
Shul.
Shul.
Meaning, shul is a great, I don't know if it's on the Ezra's Nashim display, but you know, great place for machlokas, kaiva, you know, that, you know, what do you need the internet for?
Why start?
Shul. Right. I'm gonna have, just for the benefit of the technology, Doba has a question or a comment. You can unmute yourself. We're hearing you. You have a question? Yeah.
Well, actually, it's more like a comment, two comments. One is when we're talking about, oh, Amazon is great. You don't have to waste time for the shopping and everything. Well, I think actually there are people who are the opposite. They've become addicted to shopping because they don't even have to leave their house. And now they don't see people, they don't get fresh air. They could, like, at a tap of a finger, the Amazon has made them into crazy people. And I've heard Rabbi Wallerstein say this, and I've heard, I can't remember, somebody else said, when's the last time you went on Amazon to buy something or checked your email and it didn't last you 2 hours? So it's a bunch of, it's such garbage. It's ridiculous. No one is going onto Amazon to buy a new air conditioner and then turning it off. That's the first thing. The second thing is with anything to do with Avodas Hashem, we just did this series, and I think basically we should have, each one of us should have a practical application. Oh, I don't know, you know what? For example, Adel Reisnick gave over this thing that's very, very important, not to have your phone next to your bed. Because your REM, when you sleep, your sleep is not as well It's not as good quality sleep. You should at least lefachot get up, wash your hands, go to the bathroom, and then check your phone. That's just one thing. Look at the time on your phone. Now it's a certain amount of minutes. Maybe you want to put it less. I think to go through this whole series that Judy put so much passion into, and so did Rabbi Mirvis, and to just go, oh, that was all very interesting, and move on is not the way a Jew is supposed to behave.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everyone heard that and takes that to heart. Last question, comment?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so much. I feel so
Even on this Gemara here, this Gemara is.
Did you want to let everyone keep going?
Really, you're a very gifted teacher. I really, you.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Speaking, thank you.
Reaction, how would Rabbi react? 20 years ago, I went to a group of patients, right?
Wow.
They brought flowers.
Yeah.
So,